What would you do if someone looked you dead in the eye? Reached out to shake everyone's hand in the room. And then stopped short at you, and said, "I don't shake hands with lowlives." That's what happened to Michael, a black senior engineer, during his first promotion meeting. The room went silent. The man? A white executive named Tracy Whitmore. And what happened next changed everything. Have you ever been judged before you could even speak? Would you rise above or walk away? Subscribe to Secrets of the Case, where every story is based on real, hard truths. Stay to the end. Because Michael? He didn't just survive. He owned the room, and much more. Michael Adeyemi walked into Wells and Dane Tech Solutions with his shoulders back, head high. Born and raised in Chicago, raised by a widowed mother who worked 2 jobs, Michael had earned his place. Top of his class. MIT. Leadership Awards. Quiet brilliance. But on his first day at the company's downtown office, dressed crisp in a charcoal suit, all eyes followed him. Not with admiration. With doubt. At the conference table sat executives. As Michael was introduced, each stood to shake his hand, until Tracy Whitmore, VP of Product, glanced down at Michael's outstretched hand, and said, "I don't shake hands with lowlives." The room froze. Michael lowered his hand slowly. The smile never left his face, but something cracked behind his eyes. He sat down, and got to work. The incident spread quickly. By lunch, Michael had become a name, not for his degree, or his innovations, but for what had happened. He just said it, right to his face. And nobody did anything? That's just how Tracy is. Michael kept working. But the stares didn't stop. Some pitied him. Others laughed quietly behind hands. Few offered solidarity. One woman, however, Rachel Connors, from HR, stopped him in the hallway. "I heard what happened." "I'm sorry, Michael. I've filed a report." Michael simply replied, "I'm not here to chase apologies. I'm here to change the outcome." Tracy made it his mission to block Michael. Every idea presented? Shot down. Every progress report? Picked apart. Even during a product pitch that gained the attention of upper management, Tracy interrupted. Impressive concept. But maybe a little too ambitious for someone still getting used to the system. It wasn't subtle. It wasn't even professional. But Michael? He stayed calm. Took notes. Improved. He grew his internal network. Quietly mentored interns. Designed smarter systems. Delivered better numbers. And while Tracy sneered, the CEO, Mr. Dalton, took note. At the company holiday event, the CEO surprised everyone. "We reintroducing a new director of systems strategy, a position vital to our growth." People murmured. "That person is Michael Adeyemi." Applause filled the room, hesitant at first, then warm. Tracy's smile tightened. He walked over, red wine in hand. "Director, huh? You'll crash harder from higher up, lowlife." Michael simply nodded. "We'll see, sir. But I always land on my feet." Michael's new title didn't stop Tracy. If anything, it made him more aggressive. He began manipulating reports, undermining projects, leaking false stories about Michael to board members. But Michael? He was ready. He had kept emails. Recordings. Documents. Quiet witnesses. When the board called a surprise audit, it wasn't Michael who stumbled. It was Tracy. As Tracy was escorted out of the boardroom after being placed on leave, Michael turned to Rachel and smiled faintly. "Funny thing about lowlives," he said. "Sometimes they outgrow the pit and own the building." Michael didn't shout. He didn't storm out. He built quietly until the very walls whispered his name. But this story isn't over. Because what Michael does next will not only shock the board, it will turn Tracy's former world completely upside down. He didn't raise his voice. He raised the bar. Michael Adeyemi was humiliated by a white executive. Called a lowlife, refused a handshake. But instead of fighting fire with fire, he built quietly and made his way to the top. Now, the tables are about to turn. After Tracy Whitmore was suspended, Michael was offered a chance to file formal charges. He declined. Let the facts speak for themselves, he told HR, let the truth be my justice. But behind the scenes, Tracy's actions had serious consequences. 4 stakeholders pulled out of partnerships. 2 interns had left the company citing hostile leadership. Internal morale dipped. The board called for a strategic rebranding, and Michael was asked to lead the turnaround. He agreed. On one condition. Let me restructure leadership, my way. Michael launched Project Elevate, a diversity-centered innovation program. He brought in young Black, Latino, and Asian tech talents. Promoted overlooked junior staff. Rebuilt bridges across departments. The company not only recovered, it doubled in valuation over the next year. Then came an offer. A group of angel investors, impressed with Michael's strategy, offered him a buyout proposal. The board approved. Michael Adeyemi now owned a majority stake in Wells & Dane. At a high-profile tech job fair 2 months later, Michael walked the floor with confidence. He stopped by a booth where a familiar voice nervously pitched startup services. It was Tracy Whitmore, in a wrinkled suit, handing out flyers. He saw Michael. Froze. Michael, hey. You're here. Director Adeyemi, Michael said, straightening his name badge. No, actually, CEO now. Tracy swallowed hard. I've been looking for new opportunities. Would you consider? Funny, Michael cut in. I don't shake hands with lowlives. He smiled gently, not to mock, but to mirror. Then he extended his hand. And Tracy, for the first time in his life, looked humbled. We all grow, Michael said. Some just take longer to start. They shook hands. But only one walked away with dignity. Back at the office, Michael stood in front of a wall with pictures of leaders. Among them, his late mother, smiling, apron-clad. His old MIT advisor. And a framed note. Be the man who breaks cycles without breaking hearts. He met with Rachel from HR. You changed this place, she said. No, Michael replied. We all did, by refusing to let hate lead the way. He was called a lowlife. Refused a handshake. Undermined in every room. And in the end? He bought the building. What would you have done in Michael's shoes? Would you have taken revenge? Or rewritten the story? Subscribe to Secrets of the Case for more stories where truth, justice, and human dignity always come out on top.